What's up guys, Andy here, and as you can see from the title of the video, we are going to be talking about Resident Evil 6, which is obviously a very well anticipated AAA title coming out by Capcom later this year. But just before I get to that, I'm just going to quickly talk about the gameplay that you are seeing. This is from the PC version of Resident Evil 5, and it is of the No Mercy Mercenaries mode. Now all it is basically Mercenaries mode, but with double the amount of people that are on screen. Keep in mind though, this does mean that you got to have a pretty decent computer to be able to render as many of these characters, and surprisingly I've got a really stable frame rate on my computer, so props to that. Now to the actual topic in hand, Resident Evil 6. Now honestly, I cannot wait for Resident Evil 6 to come out, because I think that is going to be a really good game, but due to Capcom's practices lately, I don't think it is going to be as hyped up as it should be. And by practices, I mean what Capcom have been doing lately with all of their games. They've just been really fucking up all of their A-list titles, just for money, and it's really stupid. A good example of this is the disc-lock content, which has been around for a few years, and I've got to be honest, customers are really getting sick of it. Disc-lock content is basically where the content's locked on the disc when you buy it, like it's already on the physical media, but Capcom still make you pay for it as downloadable content, which is obviously very unfair, because to be honest, if you own that disc, you should have everything that is on that disc. Another thing that's pretty annoying is the Day 1 DLC, and I really hope Resident Evil 6 doesn't have Day 1 DLC as well. Day 1 DLC is for stuff like Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, which to be honest, a lot of people say was a bad game. I thought it was a very good game if you just wanted to be in the Resident Evil universe, but you know, you wanted to keep to an action element, so to speak. But anyway, the game featured Day 1 DLC, which is basically, they already had DLC that wasn't in the game, but this was day one, you know, this was the release date. So it feels like you're buying an already unfinished game, which is very unfair. Why didn't they just include that in the main game? Obviously they want to profit from it, but they should do what Call of Duty do and release it sequentially, which I still think is wrong. They should release it sequentially throughout the year. They decide to put it on release date, so it kind of makes you think, well, why do that? I also didn't like the way the demo of Resident Evil 6 was given out. You had to own Dragon's Dogma, which is, to be honest, it's an alright game, but I know that Capcom were only promoting their own material, but you had to have Dragon's Dogma, which had a coupon inside it, which gave you the code for Resident Evil 6. Why didn't they just release it publicly? Because you would attract a lot more people, and then that way your game would get out and more people would be excited for the game. So again, a really stupid practice, and I really don't hope this affects the final game by these stupid little practices. So because I didn't want to buy Dragon's Dogma, you could actually download it online, because it's not really piracy or anything. You could download the free demo online and then import it onto your Xbox 360 via USB. It didn't need a JTAG or anything, so you could still enjoy that Resident Evil experience without buying Dragon's Dogma, which is ridiculous. Now Resi 6 has 3 main campaigns, and they branch across all different characters, but the characters that I liked most was it had Leon, Chris and Jake. They were your 3 main campaigns, and it had a couple of other sub-characters. Now I can't remember, I know Sherry Birkin was one of them, and I can't remember what the other 2 is called. I think one was part of Chris's squad, and there was another female that's new to the Resident Evil series, and yeah, you didn't get a feel for her whatsoever, but you know, that's completely past the point. I think the choice for the characters was really good. I think the inclusion of Jake, which is Wesker's son, is a really good addition. It's finally opening up the side of Wesker that wasn't really explained. Wesker's always been that character that was always behind everything throughout all of Resident Evil, until he was unfortunately killed off in Resident Evil 5. But we'll rant about that another time. Now for the gameplay, absolutely brilliant. Resident Evil is finally starting to modernise itself, so to speak. Could be seen as a good thing, could be seen as a bad thing. I personally think it is a good thing, even though I'm a die-hard Resident Evil fan. All you've got to do is go on my channel and you can see that I'm a die-hard Resident Evil fan. Such modernisations include the ability to aim and walk. Now if you're a die-hard Resident Evil fan, it's not really a big deal, but a lot of, you know, new fans to the genre and the series, they didn't like the whole not aiming and walking, like you had to stand still to fire. I don't have a problem with it, but Resi 6 has finally got aim and walk without being too much off Resident Evil. It's still Resident Evil. Also is the inclusion of like a dodging system, like you could roll around on the floor, do rolls, bit actiony. I'm not going to lie, that did put me off at Resi 6 for a brief moment. You know, it was a bit ridiculous. It generally didn't need it, in my opinion. Another gripe about the game is the camera. I felt that the camera was really, really close, and it might have just been me, but I thought it was too close, and I just felt a bit stiff. Resident Evil 5, like watching now, Resident Evil 5 had a brilliant camera angle, and it was perfectly fine. Resident Evil 4 had a really good camera angle, but it was a bit close, and I thought it was a bit too stiff. Obviously, Resi 6 demo is only a demo, so a few elements are unfinished, so I hope it gets fixed in the final build. So I don't want to spoil the game for you or anything like that, so I'm not going to talk about the actual storylines of the game, but the way they're set up is really, really good. They flow really good. I didn't think it was like Resident Evil 1 bad acting. They're all pretty solid acting, and I'm really, really impressed by them features. So digesting what the campaigns were, they were like 3 different mini genres of Resident Evil. It was quite weird. Leon's was your apparent survival horror. I haven't seen this element yet, but it's obviously only an unfinished build and it's really early in the game to tell. It just felt like atmosphere rather than actual survival horror. Chris's is your bog standard Resident Evil 5, you know, your action survival rather than survival horror. It's all action based, you know, what you could expect from a build like Chris's campaign. And I'm not sure about Jake's one. I think it was geared toward like the Resident Evil 3 where it was action and puzzles, but I'm not too sure. Somebody in the comments clear that up. I'm really not sure what to think of Jake's. It's interesting, but I can't put my finger on what Jake's campaign is about. I think it's something to do, because obviously he must have powers because he's Wesker's son. That might play a part in it, so you know, who knows. A lot of people on YouTube have said about screen tearing and their frames dropping. Well, I didn't really see any of these, so if someone can direct me to a video where like these issues are, I'd really appreciate it, because on my personal playthroughs I didn't really pick up on any of these elements. Now, the actual monsters and the enemies that you come across all vary on the different campaigns you play on. I think the last Plagueis are back, and so is the T-virus, but there's another virus somewhere in there from the trailer I saw. So, and the enemies in Chris's are a lot differently mutated than the standard ones that you saw in Resident Evil 4 and 5. But the Leon's ones, they were actual zombies. Zombies are finally back in Resident Evil, and that is what I like to see. Another cool little feature about Resident Evil 6 was like a varying HUD depending on what campaign you're playing. You had all different HUDs, which is really, really good. I looked at the element, I thought, well, that's really stupid because you're not really going to get used to each HUD, but it actually works really well, and it really does look cool, I'm not going to lie. So, final review, I think that Resident Evil 6 is going to be a really, really solid game when it comes out. I just hope that Capcom don't ruin it with its stupid fucking practices. What I'd like to see is maybe some old characters coming back. I think Ada Wong's been confirmed, but I think that they should include more older characters, because for all we know, this could be the last Resident Evil, because they haven't really cleared that up. They haven't said that this is going to be a plot filler, they haven't said that this is going to be a game, and then there'll probably be another game after that, but Capcom haven't really explained this, so if this is the end of Resident Evil, it should really go out with a bang with all of the characters. Characters that could be included could be Carlos Oliveira from Resident Evil 3, or Billy Cohen from Resident Evil 0, and even Barry Burton. Barry Burton needs his return. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed my little opinion video. Well, I say little, it was 9 minutes long. But I hope you enjoyed all of this, guys. Comment, rate and subscribe as always. If you've got something interesting to say, post it in the comments, I'll get straight back to you. And I will see you later, guys.